Why the Iranian government cannot control the IRGC. By Ungsuh Kenneth Park, PhD, the inability of the Iranian government to fully control the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, stems from Iran's unique theocratic structure and the group's economic self-sufficiency. The IRGC is not merely a branch of the military. It is an independent power center that often operates above the state. 1. Separation of command loyalty only to the supreme leader. Unlike most nations, Iran maintains a dual military structure. While the regular army Artesh is responsible for territorial defense, the IRGC is tasked with protecting the Islamic Revolution itself. Direct oversight by the supreme leader. The IRGC reports directly to the supreme leader Ali Khamenei, the ultimate authority in Iran, bypassing the president and the cabinet. Constitutional status under the Iranian constitution. The IRGC is defined as the guardian of the revolution's ideals, granting it a mandate that remains independent of secular administrative interference. 2. An economic empire, financial independence. Usually a government controls its military might through the power of the purse budgeting. However, the IRGC is a massive corporate conglomerate in its own right. Vast business interests. The IRGC owns hundreds of companies across vital sectors, including construction, energy, telecommunications, and logistics. For instance, the Khatam al-Anbiya. Control of the shadow economy. By controlling borders and smuggling routes, they generate enormous off-budget revenue. This means government budget cuts have little impact on their operations. 3. Deep political infiltration. The IRGC is a highly politicized entity, with influence reaching deep into the civilian government, influence in parliament and cabinet. Many former IRGC officers serve as members of parliament, ministers, and provincial governors. They act as a powerful lobby that protects IRGC interests. From within the government, the Basij militia. The IRGC-affiliated Basij militia permeates every level of society, monitoring public opinion and physically suppressing any reformist movements that might challenge their power. 4. Shadow diplomacy and foreign policy dominance. Iranian foreign policy is split between the formal diplomacy of the foreign ministry and the shadow diplomacy, led by the IRGC's Quds force. The axis of resistance relationships with pro-Iranian proxy groups, namely Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, and more, are managed exclusively by the IRGC. This often leads to friction, where the IRGC's military actions override the foreign ministry's official diplomatic goals. Summary. The relationship between the Iranian government and the IRGC is not a superior subordinate one, rather. They are competing entities serving different masters, the people electorate versus the supreme leader. Because the supreme leader utilizes the IRGC as a structural check against any reformist tendencies in the government, it is structurally impossible for an elected president to fully bring the IRGC to heel, neutralizing the IRGC's financial lifeline. The power of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. IRGC stems from its military cohesion, which is fundamentally fueled by its control over Iran's dollar-box petroleum. The destruction of oil facilities on Kharg Island is not just an option. It is a necessity to terminate Iran's capacity to wage war. By obliterating the oil loading facilities' jetties, we can immediately sever the dollar flow, paralyzing the IRGC's influence. This strategy effectively cripples the regime's current aggression, while allowing for a more streamlined reconstruction process post-war. Key strategic pillars. 1. Beyond debate, a task for immediate action. The destruction of the jetties of Kharg Island is no longer a matter for deliberation. It is a task for execution. Some argue against this act for fear of rising oil prices, but to prolong a war and risk more lives out of fear of temporary market fluctuations is an act of strategic folly. 2. Severing the cash flow via destroying the loading facilities. Neutralizing its loading infrastructure jetties will cause an immediate cessation of the IRGC's funding pipeline. Without the ability to load oil onto tankers, the IRGC's internal salary systems and support for proxy groups, Hezbollah, Houthis, etc., will collapse from within. 3. Strategic destruction for facilitated reconstruction. Unlike destroying oil fields, which leads to long-term environmental disaster and decades of recovery. Destroying jetties is a surgical approach. It ensures the regime's immediate surrender by cutting off cash, while providing the international community with leverage during post-war reconstruction. We can rebuild the jetties quickly once a new, compliant government is established, ensuring a faster return to the stable global economy. Conclusion: we must not be deterred by fear for the short-term spikes in oil prices. The long-term geopolitical tax imposed by a nuclear-ambitious IRGC-controlled Iran is far more costly to the global economy. It is time to stop the barbaric cycle of funding, massacre of their own people with oil money, and move toward a decisive surgical strike on Iran's export capabilities to secure a lasting peace and an easier path to rebuilding Iran in the region.